Let's start off talking about last night's Houston Rockets game, though. And, of course, the only reason we would talk about the Houston Rockets is if they find a way to outdo themselves with how bleeping awful they've been. And, yeah, we are going to come out and we're going to smack this team around because I understand that there are some people out there who want to be loosey-goosey and let their kids run wild. You probably have a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, and you let that little you-know-what run roughshod on you. You go out into the open, and, man, the only thing you know how to do to keep things in check is to give them a tablet or an iPad or something like that. And you know what? I'm not judging. But when that person is doing whatever they want, it falls on the person in charge. The Rockets lost on Saturday night, 153-121 to Oklahoma City. They lost last night, 140-120 to the Sacramento Kings. Both of those teams are good, right? But you've also lost to this same Sacramento Kings team, giving up 139 points to them. You've also lost to this same Sacramento Kings team, giving up 135 points against them. It would stand to reason that if you play that team a third time, maybe you give a little bit more effort on the defensive end. But last night, Sacramento shot 58 bleeping percent from the field, 51 from outside. This is not manufactured outrage. I didn't even watch the game last night, but I did watch the highlights, and my goodness, it is as if they do not care. Who does that fall on? It falls on the head coach. And whenever we've heard Stephen Silas talk about this young basketball team this year, what have we heard? He has been very, very, to be perfectly honest, soft with his criticism of this team. And look, it's one thing to do it privately. It's another thing to do it publicly. But all we have seen from Stephen Silas this year has been a guy who seems rather kind, who's willing to overlook some of the mistakes a young team is making. And last night, he decided to change his approach. Here's Stephen Silas at his post-game press conference last night after a 140-120 loss to the Sacramento Kings.
They're not giving the effort on the defensive end. They're not getting after it like they're supposed to. They're not getting into their man and fighting over and helping each other. They're not doing what they're supposed to do.
Fire and brimstone. For a second, I liked it. Silas continued to criticize the effort of this basketball team, which clearly last night was not doing anything close to enough.
The effort.
Just to close hard or just even throughout the possession?
It was getting into the body, getting over the screen, being in help, sprinting the closeouts, doing what we're supposed to do, acting as if it doesn't matter. It matters. It matters. Disappointing. These are the lessons we have to learn, I guess, and all that stuff, but that's not right. What we did tonight on that floor was not right. It's not right.
He's saying all the right things. That's what you want to hear from your coach after a loss. But here's the problem. It's taken us until February, right before the trade deadline, not too far away from the All-Star break, for that to come out from the coach. And it is just consistent with who the Rockets have been over the last couple of years, which is an organization that lets its players do whatever they want. And if it was James Harden, you know what? I can't stand the guy, but at least I get it. The guy's won an MVP. When it's Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., guys who have proven bleep in this league, who gives a bleep how talented they are? It doesn't matter. You need to be getting more out of them. What is your job, Stephen Silas? You are a teacher. And it takes until now for the gloves to come off? I feel like this change in approach publicly is a sign he's lost control. Why else would you do this? Why else would you bang on the table at this point in the year? You feel like you are not getting to them. So now you were talking to them through the media. Does that work? Does that help? It doesn't. It simply doesn't. And here we are. And I know this is a bad basketball team, and I'm sure a lot of you are like, who bleeping cares? I do. Because this, when you see this publicly, when you see a coach start to change who he is, he's done. We just saw it with Lovie Smith. Did we not? Remember when Lovie Smith was standing behind Davis Mills until all of a sudden he didn't? Right then, I was out. I'm out here. And I already was out on Stephen Silas. I brought it up a couple of times. But you change your tone like this, you've lost me. Because where the bleep was this? Weeks ago, months ago. This should have been here for a while. This is a young team. There is some talent here, I think. But it's clearly not being maximized by this guy. And you need to have somebody that actually can do it. He can't. He just can't. To me, it's that simple. At this point, what have you seen to make you believe that he's ever going to get anybody out of it? So you're wasting your time now. I know some people want him to keep coaching up their string so that this team could potentially have a lottery pick or something like that. Why? Why? Because they're not getting better along the way. It is a waste of time. You were essentially saying if you want him to continue to coach the rest of the year, that the remainder of this season is a waste of time. It's not. These players can still improve in some way, shape, or form. And I don't care about this lottery pick stuff that some of you losers out there do. Oh, I want to get the number one overall pick. I want to get Victor Wembanyana. Look, it's a lottery. This isn't like the NFL either. I can understand some criticism for the Lovie Smith and the Houston Texans winning that last game because it did get him out of that number one overall pick. I still think it's loser talk, but in this situation too, like, oh, so you want to have one of the 3 worst records in the NBA? You're fine. You're going to get it. You are not going to need any help. Stephen Silas does not need to continue to pour gasoline on this to get you to the point where you're going to be able to draft Victor Wembanyana. He doesn't need to do any more. I'm out, Sean, and I don't know how you've been feeling. You know way more about basketball than I do, but I am completely done after that. And I get it. You know, fire and brimstone, I generally like it. But fire and brimstone here, it's so out of place for Stephen Silas, and it's, to me, a sign of desperation.
Yeah, it's absolutely desperation. I saw Kelly Eco tweet out something that they've given up, I think it almost 300 points in the last 2 games. It's 150 and then 139. So it's understandable that this would be the boiling point, but I do think that drawing the comparison to Lovie Smith, where around week 10 or 11, you kind of heard the pivot in attitude and like just the press conference demeanor from Lovie Smith. And Lovie Smith and Stephen Silas were both very similar in that at the start of the year until today, they're both very even keel. Every time they kind of took the like long view of like, listen, we're gonna figure this out. We're da. And then like Lovie Smith hit a point where he's like snapping at reporters, and now Stephen Silas, he's not snapping at reporters, but like you said, he's talking to his team through the media, which unless you're Phil Jackson, just does not work.
He does not have the pelts on the wall to do that, just like these players don't have the pelts on the wall to not put in effort on the defensive end. And that disgusts me. And look, I'm old school when it comes to basketball. I'd much rather watch a game where teams are beating the hell out of each other and playing good defense than one of these all-star game kind of games like you saw last night, 140 to 120. Disgusting. It's disgusting. And I get it. It's Stephen Silas. It's the last place team in the NBA. And maybe it's a moot point because it's been such a long time. But at a certain point, you're wasting your time. And you're wasting your time with Stephen Silas right now. Thomas is in the Heights, leading off on the most interactive sports talk show in Houston. Thomas, what's up?
Hey, man, I can't agree with you more. I liked your analogy to Lovie Smith situation, but I've been off this train pretty early on. I don't check into the Rockets until Christmas Day, and I happened to catch a couple of games during that little win streak we had in November, December, and so at that point, fortunately, I got my hopes up, but like, there's no signs of any of that fight that we saw from that whatever that team was those 2 weeks. There's none of that, and if you have a young team, you think the issues are going to be, they just aren't consistently good every night, but that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing guys that, for whatever reason, we don't have an offense that runs through Sagoon. For whatever reason, guys take plays off, and especially with the youth talent, we should be seeing guys that want to play these vets that they've looked up to for years and show them up and show that they are a team to become in the future. So I'm out on Silas. I feel sorry for the guy. No reason to fire him because it's an easy explanation for the tank job.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I mean, you need a new coach that changes the entire culture and really lights their butts on fire. You know, like, hey guys, you know, y'all aren't going to be in the league, or y'all not going to be the stars that y'all were projected to be if y'all keep playing like this. So I think 2 vets and a coach that can change the entire culture might do it. But even with that, I'm starting to, you know, I hate to, you know, kind of flame out on these guys, but that doesn't even seem like doable at this point.
I'm with you, Thomas. Everything you said there, like, great call. Every single point. And I also feel bad for Stephen Silas because he does seem like he's a good dude. But that doesn't get the most out of your players. And honestly, I go back in time to last year when Kevin Porter Jr. and Christian Wood had their issues with this team, and the Rockets were sort of like, well, not that big of a deal. I do want to know what John Lucas could potentially provide the rest of the year. Like, why not?
Yeah, he has a good background as an assistant coach, getting a lot out of guys, like, when he works with them personally. So having him as the team, and in the, like, limited times that we have seen John Lucas as, like, the interim coach, where Silas either has COVID or after his dad died, the Rockets play very well.
They do.
It's obviously, it's 2 games here, 1 game there, so it's not a large sample size of, like, you know, the differences between those two. But there is something too that when he's sitting in the top chair and you have someone in that head chair that is holding guys accountable, they play better.
They do.
It's amazing.
It's really that simple. And Thomas brought it up. There were a couple of games this year where you saw what this team theoretically could be, and I don't think they're going to be that consistently because they are young. But that game against the 76ers where James Harden sucked, and it was awesome, and that game against the Suns, those are 2 games that I think back at, and I'm like, you saw something there. But the last couple of months have been a disaster, and they need somebody else, I think, at the absolute top of the food chain here. But my question for you, should he be able to coach the rest of the year? Stephen Silas. That's the Paul Gallant Show question of the day. You can answer that on Twitter at Gallant Says. And do you feel like that speech accomplished anything? Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? Stephen Silas had a viral rant last night after the Houston Rockets debacle, 140-120 loss to the Sacramento Kings, where they allowed Sacramento to shoot nearly 60% from the field and over 50% from outside. I guess they didn't allow 153 points like they allowed on Saturday, but we've gotten to a point where a lot of these players just don't seem to be bringing any effort or any energy. And when you see that, someone's got to go. If you're not going to do it with the players, you got to do it with the coaches. And this team, this organization has become so soft-handed. It's funny. This team historically has been more heavy-handed with people that are partners with the organization for criticizing them than they have been on their own players, going all the way back to James Harden and continuing now with guys who are nowhere close to that guy's level. And by the way, while I'm in a mood, can we talk about the tweet that Ted Cruz had? He retweeted something of Jackson Gatlin, who covers the Houston Rockets. And it was a couple of possibilities that involved James Harden. He just put an eyeball emoji with the retweet of it, which is, by the way, okay, boomer, try harder to get the kids. Forget all this politics. That is an impeachable offense. James Harden will never set another foot back in Texas. Build a wall around Texas, not for, you know, all the issues going on to the south, the cartel. No, build a wall all around Texas, and we keep James Harden out. I do not want this guy back. You think the effort's bad now? Imagine if this guy comes back in. What coach is going to have any power over the rest of the roster if James Harden is back here? Some of you losers got to get over it. Stop texting your ex you up. She doesn't want you anymore. Although Harden might want it here because they accommodated him so much. And he realizes it's easy to take advantage of the entire situation when you have no one who's ever going to breathe down your neck. Ugh.
I wonder how this tweet from Jackson, like, crossed. I guess it was the For You page.
Mm-hmm.
Or unless Ted Cruz followed. But then also, like, was this an aide of Ted Cruz?
Probably.
Or, like, what?
Probably.
What?
I imagine it's a young person who is following the naive hopes and dreams of many a Rockets writer out there who are constantly optimistic about this bleeping clown show that can't play bleeping defense.
I will say Jackson is a little on he's
sometimes
a little
these guys
rose-colored glasses, but he's good.
There's too. Listen, you're right. I get it. You have to be it. You got to have a relationship with the players. You got to highlight the good. But they suck. They're so bad.
Oh, I was just gonna say that this is like pure, just like this is kind of.
This is the stupid stuff online.
It's a
Sean.
wild
Look,
tweet.
I'm in a mood. I'm just in a mood. I'll be perfectly honest. I'm in a mood. This is the stuff that you see online that like blows up, and this like naive, like hopeless optimism. It's like, can we stop pretending that we're gonna win the lottery tomorrow? Good God.
Never mind win the lottery. So it starts. I
mean the NBA lottery, not even the real lottery.
I'll read it. I'll read this tweet because I feel like we've only talked about how crazy this tweet is. We haven't actually said how crazy this tweet that Ted Cruz reacted to was. So it starts, land Wemby or Scoot. Boom, done. That's
by the way,
28% chance of that happening.
Can we talk about who Scoot is for a second?
Scoot Henderson.
Thank you. I don't know who that is.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. No, don't be sorry. I think everyone else is like, who the? Because don't the Rockets have a player named Scoot?
Yes.
Doesn't
Kevin
KPJ
Porter,
go by
that's
Scoot?
One of his many nicknames.
Okay,
yeah.
see, like now it's getting even more confusing.
Okay, so land Scoot Henderson, a actual point guard.
Okay.
Number 2 pick in the draft. And then next it's trade Nets picks, Milwaukee pick, and a young piece, Jalen or Jabari, depending on Wemby and Scoot. Oh, again, what? Plus filler for Kevin Durant.
Okay.
So we have Wemby or Scoot. Congrats.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
All it took was all the picks and one of Jalen or Jabari, depending on which one of Jalen and or depending on if they got Wemby or Scoot. And then next, sign James Harden. Boom.
I'll be so mad.
And then there's 2 options. Now choose your own adventure, Paul. The Rockets next year are either going to be under GM Jackson Gatlin. It's either going to be Harden, Jalen Green, Kevin Durant, Sengun, or Wembanyama.
Uh-huh.
Or Scoot, Harden, KD, Jabari, and Sengun.
Bullet.
How about that?
Bullet. Give me a bullet. I don't want this. I don't want Harden back here. I don't
Sengun's
care.
on both teams.
I don't care if you get Wembanyama and Durant. I don't want this guy back. I don't want him back. Out. Never again. We're not doing this again. He's pissed off. He didn't make the All-Star game. Oh, my God. Like, how are you mad? You've missed like 20 games this year, and you're not the same player you used to be. There was bound to be a year where you weren't going to make it. Sucks to suck. Huh? And they're going to bring this guy back to this organization, which has gone out of its way in the past to kiss his ass. No way. No way. He'll completely railroad them and steamroll them again. I need to read some comments. Need to take a deep breath. Goose.
It is crazy
Bravo.
how quickly it goes from talking about the Rockets to talking about James Harden.
Listen, I saw that Ted Cruz tweet. It needed to be brought up. Okay? And I don't care about his politics. Impeach him. Just because of that. Sorry, you don't know ball. Hey, your aide, stop being a hopelessly naive, optimistic person. Let the weight of the world beat you down and break you like normal people do. Okay, some text on the most interactive sports talk show in Houston. I did ask, hey, should Stephen Silas be allowed to coach the remainder of the year? And also, was that rant a good thing by Stephen Silas? A text, 713-780-3776. The Rockets need to hire Kelvin Sampson. As the chief Cougs at ESPN 97.5 and 92.5, like Jeremy Brandon, but me, king of the Cougs, I say no. No. I think the Cougs deserve to have this. And also, I don't know that Sampson would necessarily work here, though perhaps some tough college-style coaching is what these players need. Honestly, I do think the next guy's got to go in the complete opposite direction. You need someone to get these guys, let's be perfectly honest, to just toughen up. Look, I hate to suggest Ime Udoka, but like he did that with that Celtics team. I'm not proposing that. I'm just saying that is an option, and the guy's so disgraced. Like, this is probably the only job he could get.
So Wembanyama, KD,
Stop.
Jabari,
Stop.
Jalen, Harden,
You know what? Remove the Harden part. I'm good with it.
and the disgraced former Celtics coach Ime Udoka.
Yeah.
Okay.
HRW on the Twitch says coaching the Rockets is like herding cats. Well, herding cats is fun.
Is it fun? It doesn't seem fun.
hanging out with a bunch of cats.
But the point is that they're running away from you.
Yeah,
'Cause it's hard.
But if you,
It's hard work.
see, you people don't know how to handle a cat. You guys are just
What do you mean,
absolute
you
amateurs.
people?
You people that you shame me. I like dogs. I like cats. Oh, Paul's a cat guy. Sorry, some people know how to herd cats.
Oh, I didn't know you were a cat dad.
That was sarcastic. Chris from Sam Houston on twitch.tv/ESPN 97.5. Sean is twisting the knife a little bit this morning. I'll sacrifice the current talent's development for the chance at Wembanyana. It just isn't often that there are clear number one picks who has the possibility to change a team in the NBA. But here's the thing, guys. If they're one of the worst 3 teams in the NBA, they have the exact same percentage chance to get Wembanyana with that first overall pick. I like that they've added this element to it. Because now, I mean, what are you really playing for if you're trying to get the worst record in the NBA? You should try to develop some of these guys along the way. And I don't think there's really any danger of them winning. I don't. But play defense, for God's sake. Battery Chucker on twitch.tv/ESPN 97.5 says, Paul, let's say they fire Silas right now and stick John Lucas in there. You honestly think Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green will all of a sudden play harder? Well, sometimes the players need to know the consequences of their actions or lack thereof. A coach getting fired because the players aren't living up to the expectations, some people are going to feel guilty about that. I can't speak for every single player and how they are wired, but there are some who will see a coach get fired and they will think that, oh, yeah, it was just the coach's fault. But there are others who will look at themselves in the mirror after a moment like that. And I feel like that's sort of what you're hoping for in a situation like this if you were to make a move. But you are not getting anything new with Stephen Silas and the rest of this team the rest of the way this year.